Nutrition gathers raw materials, but food sitting in your stomach provides zero functional power. The chemical dismantling that converts those materials into usable energy happens during a different process, respiration. The real work begins deep on the cellular factory floor, within the cytoplasm. Here, a 6-carbon glucose molecule derived from your food is broken down. It snaps cleanly in half, creating 2 3-carbon molecules called pyruvate. This initial breakdown is just the prep work. To extract the chemical energy stored inside those pyruvate molecules, the cell must execute a specific metabolic pathway. This flowchart illustrates the 3 potential fates of a pyruvate molecule. Which path the cell follows depends entirely on one environmental factor, the availability of oxygen. In the first path, seen in organisms like yeast, pyruvate undergoes fermentation in the absence of air. This anaerobic respiration converts the molecule into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The second path occurs inside your own body. During sudden, intense physical activity, your muscle cells can run out of oxygen. To maintain production, they convert pyruvate into a 3-carbon molecule called lactic acid, the buildup responsible for muscle cramps. Then there is aerobic respiration. Inside the cell's mitochondria, when oxygen is plentiful, pyruvate is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. Because the molecule is fully dismantled, this oxygen-rich path releases a significantly higher volume of energy than the anaerobic alternatives. This energy is immediately packaged into molecules called ATP. Think of ATP as the cell's energy currency. Breaking a specific bond in an ATP molecule releases exactly 30.5 kilojoules per mole, a precise unit of power used for everything from muscle contraction to protein synthesis. Because the aerobic pathway is the most efficient way to generate ATP, the human body is entirely dependent on a constant, high-volume supply of oxygen to keep its cellular engines running. Because individual cells are trapped inside complex bodies, they cannot pull air directly from the atmosphere. The environment an organism lives in determines how it acquires and delivers that oxygen. Plants rely on simple diffusion. Tiny stomatopores open on the leaf surface, allowing carbon dioxide to enter and oxygen to exit during the day. But at night, without sunlight, oxygen production stops. Eliminating carbon dioxide becomes the primary gas exchange. Underwater, the engineering challenge is more difficult. The concentration of dissolved oxygen in water is significantly lower than the oxygen concentration in the atmosphere. To compensate for this low oxygen density, aquatic animals breathe at a rapid rate. Fish take water in through their mouths and force it past specialized gills, where blood vessels extract the dissolved oxygen as it rushes by. As terrestrial animals, humans require oxygen from the air. We rely on an expansive, shielded internal surface area to absorb that oxygen without damaging our tissues, the lungs. The intake begins at the nostrils, where fine hairs filter the air. It then travels down the throat through a passage kept open by rigid rings of cartilage. This model tracks air moving deep into the chest, branching into microscopic, balloon-like structures called alveoli. Spread flat, they would cover 80 square meters. This landscape is wrapped in a dense capillary network, providing a thin surface for gas exchange. This complex branching internal architecture exists for one purpose: to create maximum contact area between the outside atmosphere and the internal bloodstream. Once the oxygen crosses into the blood, it must reach the rest of the body. But why do large organisms need a complex pumping circulatory system instead of letting oxygen naturally drift through our tissues? Because simple diffusion is far too slow for our body size. If an oxygen molecule relied only on diffusion to travel from your lungs down to your toes, the journey would take an estimated 3 years. To bridge that gap, the body uses a rapid transport vehicle, a respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, located within your red blood cells. Hemoglobin has an incredibly high affinity for oxygen. As red blood cells move through the capillaries of the lungs, the hemoglobin acts as a chemical magnet, grabbing the oxygen and rushing it through the vascular system to replenish oxygen-deficient tissues. Inhaling initiates a complex delivery system that powers the ATP energy engines of trillions of individual cells.